Hey there, sheepdoggers, and welcome to Evolve, the second coming. I can't remember what it's actually called. It's called Evolve Second Stage or something like that. And I just want to do very quickly, I just want to do a video basically talking about Evolve and why it sounds so cool and why it just isn't. And like, don't get me wrong, it's an interesting game. And it can be fun to play, especially as a free-to-play. It works better, technically speaking, although I still maintain that it's worse, unfortunately. And the problem is that, you know, it's got this interesting asymmetrical kind of feel to it, and it is asymmetrical. You know, you have one player as the monster, 4 players as the hunters. The monster has to avoid the hunters while getting stronger, and the hunters have to kind of play this cat and mouse, trying to trap and keep the monster long enough to kill him, because he can kind of run faster, he can get away, but the hunters have tools to kind of track him and kind of keep him in the area. And now, when the game originally came out, you know, people were really hyped for it for a bit, and then, you know, like the first few times you played it, you were like, oh my god, this is so much fun and so amazing, and it was really interesting, and then you start to realize that it's actually kind of boring, because as the monster, all you have to do is just keep running away. Until you get to stage 3, like the final evolved form, and after that, you know, you just charge in and try and kill the hunters. And as the hunters, you just end up chasing, you know, falling behind, and, you know, unless you manage to kind of get him domed like this, you know, it wasn't that you had to luck out. It's just that sometimes, you know, the monster, if you were up against a good monster, you ended up just not really having a chance. And yeah, this is the real problem that you can see, is that didn't really make for great gameplay. It didn't really make for enjoyable times or anything like that. And you know, it was really expensive. Especially for what it was, you know, there weren't that many characters, there weren't that many different monsters, and it was a very, you know, once you got past the cool idea, it wasn't much of a game, which was the real problem, is that there just wasn't much game there, you know. It was simple, it was repetitive, and people didn't respond to that. And, you know, quickly people kind of lost their interest in the game. Now, one of the problems of this game is quite literally that it could be so much better. You know, like the possible ideas from this are really interesting, and I feel like they were they're a little bit left out. You know, they didn't really go the whole hog. They just ended up making the game how it was. And yeah, so there's that. But with the introduction of Evolved Second Stage, what they've basically done is they've made it so that you can still win as the monster before you get to stage 3. They've made it so that as the hunters, it's easier to track down and trap the monster, and they've made it so that the monster won't die in in his first few stages. He can actually survive and even win if the hunters aren't careful. And this has all made the game a lot more streamlined, a lot quicker. You know, the game just won't, you know, the games won't be as drawn out or as boring. Which is basically the problem I had when I played as the monster. I always found that, you know, I was just running away for ages, and, you know, there's a certain amount of fun in that. But when you're the hunter, also, you know, you're in a situation where you're literally just running around a cool planet, you know, it all looks very cool, but, you know, if you're just running around not doing anything, kind of just playing catch up with a monster, then things can get a little bit boring, basically. Unfortunately, some very obvious problems come to light when the monster, and you can see this monster's stage 1 now. Some very obvious problems come to light if the monster can do this much damage and, kind of almost wipe the group, which would win him the game. We're only kind of 5 minutes in and it almost beat us. And that is that there's no feeling of worth in the fights. There's no kind of feeling of triumph. There's no, as the monster, you feel like you're already powerful if you can take them on straight away and be a credible threat. And as the hunters, you feel pretty underpowered and pretty lame for the most part. Another problem is they don't really give you. They give you easy ways to track the monster, and it doesn't feel like a chore to track the monster. It just feels like a chore fighting the monster, because he just tends to kill you. You don't need to get to stage 3 anymore. You don't have to become this super scary giant mega monster. You just have to get to stage 2. And this is as the Goliath, the kind of the standard, I guess, monster. If you play as some of the others, for example, the Wraith, I've played multiple games where the Wraith has wiped us in stage 1, like, quite easily. And it feels like you could have had a much better game probably if you'd have made it pretty much so that the monster started off really small and hard to track, and you added in other bonus objectives that you had to do along the way. It feels like for stage 2, basically what they've done is they've gone, here is pretty much what we did, except for now it's quicker and more action-packed and easier, and just like they took out the boring stuff instead of adding in interesting stuff. They streamlined it, and that doesn't always make a better game good. And the real problem is that while this game was never really fun past a few games, at the end of the day, like, it's an interesting idea, and if they'd have expanded on it instead of retracted from it, to kind of get more people in, I think it would have been a really good game. And the other problem you'll see here anyway is the number of keys, which is the in-game currency you get, is pathetic. Like, that is a decent, once you start leveling up and stuff, you get some extra keys, but no, it's so basically in conclusion, and I only played one game for the background video, so we may just cut to an image or something for just the final thought or whatever. But in conclusion, they've turned it free to play, which isn't a terrible idea, but all they've done since over a year ago when the game was released is add some more characters. It's very clear what they could have done to have made the game more enjoyable, better, and that what they should have done is not streamline it, cut things back, kind of make it easier for the monster, make it easier for the hunters, kind of shorten the game length. What they could have done is they could have added so many different extra things to be doing, to discover, a reason to kind of elongate this hunt, to make the monster feel very small and weak to begin with, and then given him the motivation to go and get a lot bigger and to get more awesome, and like when he starts off at his early stage, he's small, he's fast, he can easily get away. All of his skills are to run away. And then when you go to the next stage, he's a little bit bigger, but he's all about the speed. He's all about the hunt. He wants to get the food. And then in his final form, he's all about the fight. He's all about the damage. And with the hunters, you make it so that when they're not really equipped to deal with the early stage, they don't know what they're able to how to track him and that. So they have to go to different points to hunt maybe a few different animals, some kind of like bigger prey, and they need to refine their skills to the point where they can either track the smaller ones, or they can track, or they can fight the bigger ones. So like if you jump into the planet, then the first things the hunters have to do is go and do a few objectives to be able to track the smaller creature, the smaller version of the monster, who's either the quick running away one or the quick hunting one. And if they manage to do that before the monster manages to kind of do his objectives, like the eating and the taking down of larger prey, you start off taking small prey, you start taking bigger prey, you slowly grow and evolve, and like that's the thing, is evolve has no evolution. He has the same skills. He starts with 4 skills, and he has the same 4 skills. He just puts a few extra points into them, makes them more powerful. He gets bigger. That he doesn't change how he looks. He doesn't change to his environment. He just gets bigger, and that is, I think, entirely the problem with Evolve Second Stage, or I can't remember exact. I'm pretty sure it's called Evolve Second Stage. Is that they released the game and it was disappointing to people, and they said, okay, what can we do to make it less disappointing for people, to get people playing it again. And they turned it free to play to get more people back into it, to appeal, and they made it more streamlined so the games don't last that long, so people don't feel as bored. And like, it's the laziest way. They basically changed stats around and went, okay, now the monster's stronger when he's smaller, so you barely ever get to stage 3. The hunters catch the monster faster, so the game lasts about 8 to 10 minutes maybe, and the monster barely ever gets to stage 3. The one time I did get to stage 3 as the monster, I lost like a minute later because there's an actual time limit. It's all sped up, it's all faster, and it's still, because it's a good idea and because it would be a good base game, like a good base game to build on and kind of expand and make bigger and better. That's great. You can play it and have fun, but at the end of the day, it won't last any amount of time, and you can go back to it, like I went back to it a year later. I played it originally when it was in the beta, and I went, no, this isn't for me. It's fun, but it's not gonna. The fun isn't gonna last that long. And I come back to it a year later now. I'm like, well, not much has changed except for it's a bit quicker, and it's still not gonna last very long. So yeah, there you go, guys. Like that's just my take on Evolve, and it's just a good example of a game that was hyped up that didn't turn out to be as interesting as everyone hoped it would be. And honestly, like, for all its faults, for all its bugs and everything, Dead by Daylight is a lot better. It's as a game, as entertainment, it's a lot more fun, because you have the strong one is unkillable, and you're just trying to escape it, and you have to do objectives as you go, and you have to either work together or all that kind of thing. It just works as an idea a lot better. It has very similar flaws, but it just has that little bit more that really appeals. So yeah. Evolve Stage 2 is free to play, and it's worth a play if you've never played it. I'd advise you to go on to play a few rounds and that kind of thing, and very quickly you'll realise, as have most people, and as did most people when it originally came out as well, is that it just doesn't have any staying power, which is why I'm not criticising the free to play and the new aspect of it. I'm just saying why it's not gonna keep people playing again, and why it definitely didn't keep people playing the first time. So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Always helps me out, and I do really appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next one.